Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to be my guest. Today we have from Northborough, we have Ted Flanagan. And he is an author, and he has written this. I haven't even read it yet. Boy, I can't wait. Every Hidden Thing. Welcome, Ted.
Thank you. Thank you.
This Ted was also an EMT.
I still work as a paramedic.
In Worcester or through Northborough?
No, so I'm actually in West Boylston now. I grew up in Northborough, but I live in West Boylston. So I'm on the West Boylston Fire Department as a call paramedic.
How do you do it? I mean, you've got to have a strong stomach.
I'm okay as long as it's not my blood. That's my general rule.
As long as it's not somebody you know.
If it's not my blood, I'm fine. As long as I'm not the one bleeding, I'm okay.
You're okay.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Well, anyway, Every Hidden Thing. Did you do the cover?
I didn't. I did my publisher used one of their designers. Lance, I forget his last name. I thought he did a great job. You know. I had some input, which was nice of Crooked Lane, the publisher, because they didn't have to give me any insight or any input, and they did. And but that was maybe like the second design. He really nailed it.
I like the back of this. One of the reviews is from Wiley Cash, a New York Times best-selling author. The book combines the best of James Ellroy's noir cityscapes with the narrative impulses of Dennis Lehane, two famous people. Flanagan is a powerful and undeniably gifted writer, and his debut novel proves it. How lucky are we to have you with us?
Oh, please. I'm thrilled to be here.
When did this come out?
October. Middle of October.
Last October. And I must have heard... Did I read about you in one of the Sunday papers? Or
the Telegram has been kind enough to run a couple features on me, and so that's probably where you saw it.
Okay, now, without giving the ending away, tell us about the book.
So, unsurprisingly, the book involves a night shift paramedic working in the city of Worcester for an unnamed ambulance service, who stumbles upon some secret knowledge about the city's mayor, who the mayor has higher aspirations of political office and knows that he needs to clean up some messes before he can move forward. So he hires a disgraced former cop as his bagman and fixer, and he comes after this paramedic because he knows the paramedic knows a few things. I do feel like so the former mayor of Worcester, Joe O'Brien, he's a paramedic, is one of the nicest guys you ever want to meet. And so anybody who knows anything about Worcester politics knows that already the premise of the book is not really possible, in that the mayor, as he exists in this book, really doesn't have that much power in real life Worcester. But I do want to say off the top, it's not based on anybody real.
Right, that's okay. Well, except for you, you're an EMT, so.
Right. Well, it's interesting. It's not autobiographical. A lot of Thomas Archer, the main character, is actually sort of an amalgamation of a lot of folks I've worked with, both men and women. I spent a lot of my time as a paramedic sort of observing my colleagues and listening to their stories. I mean, if you ever want to hear great stories, go to an ambulance stock at UMass in Worcester on a Friday night when everybody's together and telling stories. So there are a lot of calls that are recounted in the book, but I was only on. There's only one in the whole book that I was on. The rest are all ones. They're based on real calls, but I stole them from this person or that.
I asked Ted. I said, "What does it take to be like a? How do you do it?" And it's like, as long as it's not your own flesh and blood, right?
Well, as long as it's not my personal blood. There's a lot of. I think to be a paramedic and an EMT, there's a lot of compartmentalization. And you one of the things always, I still teach it as well. And one thing I always tell new students is, it's not your emergency. Yeah. You need to sort of tap that parasympathetic tone, that party that calms down and can focus when the world around you is going to hell. Okay, even if inside you're panicking, no one will ever know.
So this guy, Archer, gets hired by this crooked mayor.
Yeah.
Okay, what happens then?
Well, I don't want to spoil it.
No, don't spoil it.
But so he basically has to decide whether does he even want to fight. He's exhausted. Anybody that's worked as a paramedic or an EMT for any length of time knows that the job is it's a great profession, but it's also one that can really take over your life in ways that aren't healthy and aren't productive.
Mentally, physically.
Yeah, and I would even say more mentally. I mean, everybody's sort of sore, all the time, but real mentally. And you see a lot of people. It can enrich your life, but it also burns a lot of people out, and it can sort of. In fact, I'm actually finishing a doctorate in narrative. I'm doing a project in narrative medicine for EMS, which is getting people who are in EMS to endeavor to work on like creative writing projects as a way to. They do it for physicians, medical students, and resident physicians. They've been doing it for 30 years with great results, and they've never tried it on EMS.
That's
folks.
Fantastic. Does the med school over there know about this? That you're doing this?
I don't think so. No.
I'm
about to finish the coursework. I won't start my dissertation work till next year.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
What a contribution that would be.
Well, it's interesting and not surprising, again, anybody in your audience who's worked on an ambulance to know that while it has been tried in other fields of medicine, no one's ever tried it with EMS. EMS is very much in the moment. Solve the problem right in front of you. We don't think down the road. We don't ask ourselves what's the job doing to us. The system sure as heck doesn't care. The EMS system, it's
you guys have this wonderful ability. It's like a doctor. They have this great ability not to get all excited, not even in an emergency room, just, hi, and what brings you here today, or this type of thing, which I like.
Yeah, you got to stem that sort of fight or flight response. You got to be able to calm down so you can think.
Because if he's upset,
right.
the odds are I'm going to think, whoa.
Yeah, you don't want your doctor panicking. You sure as heck don't want your paramedic panicking.
Yeah. I'm like, you know what you're doing, right? Okay, so he gets hired by this guy who wants to be a mayor. And how does it tie in with his ENT work with this guy?
So he's actually being chased down by the bagman that the mayor has hired. And he just basically has to find a way to outwit several forces that are kind of coming at for him at the same time. He's got a sick child at home.
Yep.
He's got, the usual pressures in paramedicine. The pay is improving. But generally speaking, until right now there's a huge shortage in the field, so salaries are coming up. But generally speaking, you could have a fine standard of living as a paramedic. You just had to work 80 to 100 hours a week to get it. And that's modulating a little bit, but it's still kind of the truth. So he's got to figure out, he's got money pressures. He's got this crazy guy coming after him. There's a guy who blames this paramedic for his wife's death on a call. He's a member of a militia who decides he's going to kill the Thomas Archer. So he's got a bunch of. I definitely believe in that old adage where you put your main character up a tree and throw rocks at him. That's the best way to create just the constant pressure.
See how strong he is or she is to withhold.
Or not, right? Yeah.
And how long did it take you to write it?
So the original draft was probably 2 years of writing, and then working with my agent, we revised it for about a year, and then so all told about 3 years before we went off on submission.
That's really good. It's your first novel.
Correct.
Your first novel. Before that, what were you writing? You said you'd written something else.
I've done some ghostwriting, so I've actually been fortunate for a few professional athletes, nobody particularly famous, but work with a lot of entrepreneurs. They want a book for their platform, and so you just help them figure out.
I know I've ghostwritten memoirs. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
It can be fascinating.
It's enjoyable. I've met some people I never would have met before. And it may not. I actually like when the thing I'm writing about is not my wheelhouse because I learn so much. So I don't do that as much anymore. I still got a few pans in the fire, but
You've got to get this one launched even more. Where have you been appearing, by the way?
So I've done a lot of bookstores, library appearances, the Gale Free Library in Northborough and the Beeman Library in West Boylston, where I live now. Shows like this, a few podcasts. I think I've been on 7 or 8 podcasts. Right. The conferences haven't really opened up yet. I was supposed to go to BoucherCon last was it August in New Orleans, but then Omicron hit, and so the conferences really have been shut down. I'm supposed to go to Minneapolis in a couple months. We'll see if that works out.
Have you ever heard of in Rhode Island? Every December they have the Rhode Island Authors Expo. And it is fantastic.
Oh, great.
I mean, it's wall-to-wall authors. And it's like, they came back again this past December. Not as well attended, but I heard it was still spectacular. I remember the first one I went to. I'm like, I can't possibly meet every author in this huge ballroom. And, I mean, the tables were... And you feel bad if you're walking down the aisle and think, I don't want to make that person feel bad. Who do I meet? As soon as they know I'm there, here's my card, that type of thing. But so anyway, Ted, how can they get a copy of your book, Every Hidden Thing?
So you can go to my website, Ted Flanagan, FLANAGAN.com. It's available. Links there to. It's available on Amazon, the Penguin Random House website. It's on. Links are on there to purchase. Really, any major book retailer. It was in Barnes and Noble and some local stores. I'm not sure, if what the physical copies are available still there, but local stores certainly had it, and all major online retailers, bookshop.org will have links to it. Sort of anywhere books are sold.
Would you call it a mystery novel?
That's a great question. So I see myself more as a noir writer.
Yeah.
Mystery. There's no whodunit. There's no question of what happened or who did what. So it gets categorized as crime, mystery, thriller are all sort of their same sort of homogenous blob, and I'm thrilled to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite writers growing up, James Ellroy.
How about Robert Parker?
Robert Parker,
Oh, God,
Horace
I love
Spencer novels, of course.
They're simple.
Yep. George V. Higgins, Friends of Eddie Coyle, probably one of my single favorite books of all time. So I'm happy to be Elmore Leonard. I mean, I'm thrilled to Tanner French. I'm thrilled to be in that same.
I love that with the with New York Times again. A subtle powerhouse of a novel. How about that?
Well, Wiley Cash, boy, he's that was a phenomenal blurb. He's an incredibly generous guy. I think anybody should read him if they haven't read him. Wiley Cash, a bunch of great books out there.
Yeah.
James Ellroy blurred the book, and it's funny. They only printed a little snippet of what he said, but he sent this really long blurb, and he said that I was the bastard child he had with a Bengal tigress.
Oh.
So even if the book had never been published, the Ellroy blurb alone and the Wiley Cash blurb would have made it.
Now, has Kirkus does a review on you yet?
They had. They liked it.
They did.
Which is relieving because, as you know, Kirkus can be difficult.
Yeah, they can be brutal.
New York Journal of Books and Kirkus gave me really nice reviews. I didn't get starred, but they said very positive things, thank goodness. Cause I've seen
How did they get to know you? I mean, was it online, or did you actually literally send them copies?
My publisher was nice enough to handle all that outreach. It didn't get reviewed in certain places like Publishers Weekly and Booklist, which Booklist, that one hurt me because as a friend of the library, I love libraries. I wrote most of this book in a library. Sure. Grew up in the Northborough Library when I was a child. Was my favorite place in town. Yeah. So Booklist is the free book magazine, paper, whatever.
I get that every month.
That lets in all the libraries.
So you were in that.
I wasn't. No, that's the one that hurt. That's the only one that hurt.
That's where I may have read about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately, Booklist didn't review it, and neither did Publishers Weekly, but Kirkus certainly did. The Journal of Books. It's been great. It's so. I feel so fortunate.
Oh yeah.
Both to have found a traditional. Like I had thought about self-publishing, and the reality is, books are other than my family. There's nothing more important to me than books and writing, and I always just wanted to see my name on the spine of a book. In a bookstore.
That's good. I love the self-publishing because to me, I mean, you could take an author who waits for a year or more to even get anybody to... Right. I'm like, get your doggone book out there. Yeah. Get it well known. Then you're going to get it more of a chance if you want to go with a publisher because they're going to know, this guy's really, really popular. Just get it out there. Don't wait to be turned down. Right. I like that, but you got lucky. You got really lucky.
I mean, there's definitely, I think it all comes down to perseverance, So in my MFA program, I have a Master of Fine Arts in Writing. There were plenty of writers that were better than me, far better than me, and who haven't published. And I think the reason is I talk about this with my writer friends a lot is just, you've got to be thick-skinned. Some people I know, some great writers I know get that first rejection and they're done.
Yeah.
Rejection is a constant companion. If you're ready, and so I have a really sophisticated method for dealing with rejection. I read it, I go okay, and then I never think about it again.
Never think about
it. Put it behind me. Yeah.
So now, where's your favorite type of place? People are listening, watching, and they want to invite you to come speak. Where are your favorite places?
I'll be honest with you, I absolutely love book clubs. I've done a few where they read the book and then they invited me to a meeting of the book club. Both I've done virtual appearances. I've done in person. I went to one. It was a book club in Boylston.
At the library?
No, it was a group. Actually, it was a group of ladies that had been reading books together, like 20 of them, for like 30 years.
Separate from the library?
Yeah, they just happen to love reading, and they made a big meal, and we came, we ate, and we talked about
in
a house. Yeah.
How did they hear about you?
So, I actually go to church with one member of the group, and she invited me. But they were just super insightful readers. They love. We spent probably as much time talking about other books we've read in common and liked as we did about my book, and it was awesome. I'm a writer, but I'm a reader first, and I love. Every time I meet a book person, it feels like I'm meeting a tribe member that I've never met before.
Someone who thinks. I have tried in libraries numerous book groups over the years, and I never stay because there's other reasons, but it's like the book that's picked is like bland. There's just nothing there. And then when you sit down there, there's usually one in the crowd who wants to take over the whole thing. A good leader goes to each person. But I also think it shouldn't be the leader who's always picking the books out. Have each person suggest. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But
that's how this group did it. Everybody would suggest for next month's title, and they would sort of vote. And so I love book clubs. If anybody has a book club and they want to read my book, I will come to your meeting. I will.
But I can see about the book clubs and libraries being advertised, but how on earth do you dig up the ones that aren't?
That's a great question. The ones I've found have all been sort of through my website. A lot of times there's a contact form, and those emails, those come to me. I don't have anybody else reading them. They come right to me. So those are probably my favorite. I love podcasts. I love being a guest on a podcast. I love this sort of one-on-one.
There's nothing like me that beats being in person. So I always tell my authors, I'm like, okay, it's fun to be on a radio show. It's great, wonderful, more power to you.
Yeah.
But you want to be in person. I want to see that author. I want to hear that author talk.
Right. Yeah.
Now, you were at the Northborough Library. How did that go?
It was awesome. It's fantastic.
You liked it.
What's great about that is, so to me, that's an important library. I spent hundreds and hundreds of hours in that building as I grew up in Northborough until I left there when I was 18 when I went off to college. What was funny was my favorite part was a lot of friends of mine, maybe who might be scattered around the country with their own family, but like their mothers, their fathers, their people that I've known my whole life came to the event. We probably had 30 people, which is pretty monstrous.
It's a big room there.
Yeah.
That big. I know I've gone to one or two events in that room.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And the staff is awesome. I mean, they're all readers, and they love talking to writers and other readers. So it was just I have yet to have a bad experience in a library.
Yeah, I know that the Milford Library, they've had, what's that guy, Ted? He used to be on TV. I can't think of the name. He's been there a couple times. There was years ago, an FBI guy there. He wrote a book. We had him on the show. He could not divulge where he was from, anything personal, if it was for real. He was suited up in this, but his book was fantastic.
That's great.
I wasn't intimidated. Like, we got it. We won't press you for anything.
Well, I know, like West Boylston, we had Hank Philippi Ryan.
Okay, yeah.
I think she's come twice.
Now, the West Boylston Library, we were talking about it, is that adorable stone building.
Yep.
Where does that go back to?
So the Beeman Library, I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't want to. But I think so. That was a mansion donated by I think a family that may have owned a factory in town or something.
Yeah.
Donated to the town. There's an addition to it. There's a great space downstairs. We really get to love it. They have an amazing children's library up on the third floor.
There's a third floor there?
Yeah, it's an amazing children's library. Our kids,
they like it.
They love it.
That little stone library.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it would have room for more than one floor.
Oh, they have all kinds of stuff stuffed away. This book, a lot of this book was written in the basement in a study carrel, deep in the bowels of the bottom stacks. It's quiet. It's really undisturbed. It's a great space. Libraries, I love libraries.
We've been talking with Ted Flanagan. He's the author of this, I call it a mystery novel. You want to call it that?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh,
absolutely.
yeah. Knock your socks off. Every hidden thing. Ted, again, how can they reach you and get your book?
So my website is probably the best way, tedflanagan.com, and the Flanagan's Flanagan. I also have the world's worst handle for my Twitter account, but it's at TedEMTP, which is all my EMS friends that are listening are laughing at me because that's kind of a whacker. We call people that are too into the field, we call them whackers. That's a whacker handle. It literally means Ted Paramedic. The old paramedics used to call it EMTP or EMT Paramedic. So at TedEMTP, that's my Twitter handle. So you can DM me there if you want. And those are probably the two best places to find me. And I'm always around.
This is fantastic. Now, How many children do you have?
Three.
How old?
So I have twin boys that are 19. They're about to be almost juniors in college.
Yeah.
And my daughter is 16. She's going to be a junior. She's the most put together person in the house.
Yeah.
She's just
the youngest is the one who's got it together.
She's a machine. Yeah. She's driven. She's got. She knows what she wants to do, and she knows. And she works hard every day. And
that's lucky.
Yeah.
Have they read? All of them read your book?
No. I think one of my sons is an English major, and he's read it. And my other son is a sports management major. He loves the Red Sox and baseball. So he's not a big reader. He hasn't read it.
He's more physical, right?
Yeah.
Where did you go to college, Ted?
So it's funny. I went on what I call the State University World Tour. So I graduated
from different ones.
Yeah, I went to Clemson for a year.
Where's that?
In South Carolina, right out of high school.
But you grew up in
Northborough. Yeah. I just sort of ended up there. I was a fish out of water. When I say I didn't love it there, it's not the school's fault. I was young. I was too far from home. Wasn't ready for school. Came back. Went to 2 great years at the University of Maine, and then just was feeling really sort of wanderlust. And so on July 31st of 1991, I remember the date. I enlisted in the Marine Corps. I went into Boston. I took my physical, and got a date to go to boot camp in January. Yeah. The next morning, Iraq invaded Kuwait. And the night I went to boot camp, the air war started. So if it weren't for bad timing, I'd have no timing at all. I feel so awful. I put my mother through hell because.
So you had to leave college and go.
Yeah, I went to boot camp, and the whole thing ended before I got out of boot camp. I ended up having 4 years active duty and 2 years in the reserves, and it was great. I traveled the world. I parachuted, I scuba dived, I went to all kinds of places.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so people, it makes me uncomfortable when people say, thank you for your service. Listen,
you had fun.
I had got far more out of it, I feel like, than I gave,
But you can't tell me you enjoyed Paris Island, where all the bad stuff...
I'm old enough now that I only remember the fun parts. It was a long 13 weeks.
Boy, I hear that it was really a nightmare.
It was, and actually the book I'm working on right now, there's a famous incident in the 50s where a drill instructor drowned 6 recruits on an not illegal, but unauthorized night march. It's called the Ribbon Creek incident. And he was charged with manslaughter, beat the charges, served 3 more years in the Marine Corps, and then retired to a house around the corner from mine in West Boylston.
Is he still there?
No, he passed away. Okay. And it's funny because he was painted at the time as this monster.
Yeah.
And it came out in trial that his recruits loved him, that he was the only one, they said, that really cared about them. And he lived the rest of his life, sort of in contrition. No, he worked. He had a great life. People that I met that knew him speak incredibly highly of him.
But what do you think about him?
Yeah, I think he made a mistake. He had good intentions why he did what he did.
Yeah.
And to me, what he did I think a lot about, like we see today with this idea of, are we in a proxy war with Russia in Ukraine? And when you look back in the 50s, this was a time the Cold War was just starting, and a lot of these drill instructors were like the one that involved the incident were Korean War veterans. There's a whole lot of other stuff surrounding the incident that had more to do than just this awful thing that happened.
But how could he lead 4 of his men to be drowned?
6. Well, so unfortunately they didn't really know about the hydrology of this creek, and so they went into the water, and there was a fast-moving tide moving out. And back then, the Marine Corps they had recruits who couldn't swim.
Oh, brother.
So some of those guys slipped into the deep water, were dragged out by the current, and they panicked. And so 4 of the 6 who drowned couldn't swim, and 2 that drowned were trying to rescue people. And the last person out of the water was actually this drill instructor. Like, he tried, and he took responsibility from the moment it happened.
So the drill instructor tried to get the guys he tried to rescue.
He did, yeah.
Were the parents ever given the bodies back? Did they ever find these guys?
Oh, they found them. It took a few days, and that's kind of an interesting story in and of itself. And
this is going to be fascinating and sad at the same time.
Yeah, and it's a story that I drive by his house 20 times a day, and I didn't know that there was a connection until about 5 years ago. when I met a guy who used to deliver newspapers to the house. I forget how it came up in conversation, but he came back and lived a full life and sort of always had this on his mind. And so it's a fun project. Fun's the wrong word, but it's an interesting project.
Yeah. How far are you along on it?
I'd say about 60,000 words at this point, which is...
You count your words, okay.
I do, yeah. Pages, sometimes I teach English composition too at colleges, and I never give in writing assignments page counts, because then you get 4-inch margins and 20-point font. Word count, can't fudge your word count.
So when do you think this new one is going to be out?
It's a good question. So I sort of promised my agent a rough draft by August.
Oh, good. Okay, that's not far.
Yeah, so we'll see how long he wants to work with me on it, how much work it needs.
Yeah,
and
he's going to work.
Yeah, he's an editing agent for sure.
Yeah.
So I send him chunks of pages and he makes comments.
Good. That sounds like me when I write a memoir for someone. I don't just send them an email with what I've done so far of the manuscript. No, I make copies and send it physically to them so that they can physically write what they'd like to correct.
Yeah.
We've got to wind this down, but we have been talking with Ted Flanagan, Every Hidden Thing. This looks like a really good mystery. I haven't read it yet, but boy, you better believe I am. And when I'm done, I'll donate it over here to the library. You can also get a copy of it. He's going to leave a copy of it, I believe, or with me, right? And it'll be over here at the Upton Town Library. One more time, how can they get a hold of you, Ted?
So best place is tedflanagan.com. The Flanagan's Flanagan. Oh, one other thing I want to mention, I am absolutely dedicated. Number one, I appreciate every copy that gets sold. I can't thank anybody enough who buys it. And please, I am dedicated. If you want a signature on the copy, a signed copy, I can anywhere within like an hour of Worcester. I've driven and met people. You can mail it to me if you reach out to me through my website. I'll arrange for it, and I will. I have bought a stack of book envelopes, and I'm happy to sign and return to you. So please, by all means, I'm absolutely dedicated to signing every copy that I can.
I find this fascinating that little private book clubs you find are even better than maybe say at a bookstore.
Yeah, true.
This is because there's so many bookstores. I know all the owners around here. That's amazing. Hey, you haven't been to Tatnuck yet in Westboro, have you?
I've talked to them, and we may do an event at some point.
I highly recommend it. But you know what? You're so good. You're great at talking. Use the back room for your presentation. Don't just sit there in the front and sign.
Right.
There's a back room, and make sure that they're pretty good getting the word out. Make your own big signage on an arrow. Mm-hmm. I've sent my authors over there, and it's great when you but use that big room in the back with signage. Make sure that they know you're there.
It's a great space. I've been to a couple events back there. It's a great space.
You have done?
Oh, yeah, I love Tatnuck. I'm a huge Tatnuck fan.
Oh, yeah. I could spend hours and money there.
I have, and I will again, absolutely.
Ted, thanks. And make sure to let me know when your next one is done.
Oh, you know what, Jan? I hope you have me back.
Oh, yeah. You'll be back, believe me. Thank you, and we'll see you next time and be my guest.
On a shooting star, heading out toward a dream. Tomorrow's even closer than it seems.